Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a straightforward question. How often do we find ourselves beginning something only to stop when things get difficult? How many of our dreams have been left behind? How many goals remain unachieved because we couldn't stay consistent? Today I'm here to tell you that the true difference between success and failure is not talent, it's not luck, it's consistency. It's the ability to show up day after day even when you don't feel like it. We've all experienced it. At the start, we're filled with excitement, fueled by motivation and enthusiasm. But then the reality sets in, the grind begins, life gets in the way, obstacles arise, and what do? We step back, we pause, we tell ourselves we'll get back to it when we have more energy, or we'll pick it up when things calm down. But let me tell you something, that day may never come. If you keep waiting for the perfect moment, you'll keep waiting forever. The secret is to force yourself to be consistent, even when it feels uncomfortable. Consistency is far more powerful than motivation, and that's a truth you need to internalize if you ever want to reach your true potential. Motivation is like a spark. It's bright, it's exciting, and it gets things moving. But just like any flame, it eventually dies down. What you're left with is either a pile of ash or a steady, smoldering fire that keeps burning, even when the winds try to blow it out. That steady fire, that's what consistency is. It may not be flashy, but it's reliable. And in the end, it's what will carry you across the finish line when everyone else has burned out. You see, motivation is like a mood. It comes and goes. There will be days when you wake up feeling unstoppable, leaping out of bed, ready to take on the world with energy and drive. But let's be honest, that's not every day. Most days, you'll wake up with a list of excuses as long as your arm. You'll be tired, you'll be sore, maybe the weather's terrible, maybe you had a rough night's sleep, whatever it is. On those days, motivation won't be there. It will abandon you when you need it most. That's why you can't rely on it. You can't wait for the stars to align, for everything to feel perfect, because let's face it, life doesn't work that way. Things will always get in the way, and if you let them, you'll be stuck in a cycle of waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect mood, or the perfect spark to start moving. Consistency, however, doesn't care about your mood. It doesn't care if you're tired, stressed, or if the weather is miserable. Consistency says, I don't care how you feel today. We're doing this anyway. And that's where the magic happens. The moment you stop relying on motivation and start building consistency, you become unstoppable. It's like flipping a switch in your mind. You stop waiting for things to feel right and instead start making things right through sheer willpower and discipline. It's not about being in the mood to work, it's about making the work a non-negotiable part of your life. Think about it. Look at anyone who has achieved greatness in their field: athletes, artists, business leaders. What do they all have in common? It's not that they're always motivated. No, it's that they've mastered the art of showing up day in and day out, no matter what. They've made consistency their greatest ally, and that's why they're at the top. It's not that they don't face obstacles or challenges, they do, just like everyone else. The difference is they've trained themselves to push through the tough moments, to keep going when it's hard, when it's uncomfortable, when everyone else would rather quit. That's the power of consistency. Consistency builds habits. And once you've developed those habits, the work becomes automatic. It's no longer about how you feel in the moment, it's about staying true to the commitment you made to yourself. When you've been consistent long enough, skipping a workout or taking a day off doesn't feel like a break, it feels wrong. It feels like you're betraying yourself, because this habit has become part of who you are. And that's what separates those who achieve their goals from those who don't. The ones who succeed have woven consistency into the very fabric of their lives. They've made it a part of their identity. But make no mistake, building that level of consistency takes time, it takes effort, it takes discipline. Discipline is not glamorous, it's not exciting. No one's going to applaud you for getting up at 5 a.m. to hit the gym, or for staying late at the office to finish a project, but that's okay. Discipline isn't about recognition, it's about doing what needs to be done, whether anyone's watching or not. Discipline is the muscle that powers consistency. And like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you use it. The more you show up, the easier it becomes to keep showing up. Let's talk about showing up for a moment. That's half the battle. Most people quit before they even begin. They talk themselves out of it before they've had a chance to make any progress. They let their feelings dictate their actions. But you have to be different. You have to show up even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it, because those are the moments that matter most. Those are the moments that separate the average from the exceptional. It's easy to show up when you're excited, when everything's going your way, when motivation is high. But can you show up when things aren't going your way? Can you show up when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when you're tired and frustrated? That's the true test. And when you pass that test, when you show up consistently day after day, you start to build something incredible. You start to build momentum. Each small action builds on the last, and before you know it, you've created a wave of progress that carries you forward. And that momentum, that's powerful. It pushes you through the tough days. It makes it easier to keep going because you've already invested so much time and energy that stopping now feels like betraying everything you've worked for. But here's the thing about consistency. It's not just about putting in the time. It's about putting in the right kind of time. It's about being intentional with your actions. Just going through the motions isn't enough. You have to bring focus and energy to what you're doing even on the days when it feels like a grind. Consistency isn't about being robotic, it's about being relentless. It's about constantly striving to improve, to get a little bit better each day, even when it feels like you're not making progress. And that brings us to another important point. Consistency doesn't always yield immediate results. In fact, most of the time the results come much later. It's like planting seeds. You don't see the fruit right away, but if you keep tending to the soil, if you keep watering it, if you keep nurturing it, eventually you'll have a garden full of abundance. But that only happens if you're patient enough to wait for the harvest. Too many people give up just before they would have seen the results. They plant the seeds, but when they don't see growth immediately, they walk away. Don't be that person. Understand this consistency is a long game. It's not about quick wins, it's about sustained effort over time. And that's why consistency is more powerful than motivation. Motivation might get you started, but it's consistency that keeps you going. It's what separates the dreamers from the doers. The people who achieve their goals aren't the ones who are always motivated. They're the ones who show up day after day, even when they don't want to. They're the ones who keep pushing even when it's hard. They're the ones who've built consistency into their lives, and because of that, they've created habits that carry them through even the toughest times. So when the excitement fades, when motivation dies down, and when you're tempted to quit, remember this: it's not about how you feel in the moment. It's about staying true to the commitment you made to yourself. It's about building the discipline to keep showing up even when you don't want to. Because in the end, that's what will carry you to success. We often convince ourselves that in order to achieve greatness, we must perform grand, extraordinary acts. We trick ourselves into believing that monumental leaps are the only way to move forward, that if we don't make a huge splash, then what we're doing doesn't matter. But this mentality can be devastating. It's like standing at the base of a mountain, looking up at the peak, and feeling paralyzed by the sheer size of it. The enormity of the task ahead makes it feel impossible to even start. So we hesitate, we wait, we make excuses, we allow fear and doubt to grip our hearts because in our minds we've already failed before we've even taken the first step. But here's a truth you need to grab hold of: success is not found in those massive, life-changing moments. No, success is built in the small daily actions that seem inconsequential at the time. It's not about giant leaps. It's about those tiny incremental steps that seem too small to matter, but over time, they add up to something remarkable. Too many people get caught up in waiting for that perfect moment, for that big break, for that stroke of luck to propel them forward. But if you spend your life waiting for those monumental moments, you'll be standing still forever. What you have to understand is that small steps, those little moves that seem like they're not making a difference, are what lead to big results. Imagine for a second that you are climbing that mountain, not by running or leaping, but by placing one foot in front of the other. With every step, no matter how small, you get a little higher, a little closer to the summit. You can't always see how much progress you're making day by day. Sometimes it feels like you're stuck in the same place. But keep going. Keep showing up, because every small effort you make today will get you closer to where you want to be tomorrow. When you reflect months or years down the line after putting in consistent effort, you'll be astonished at how far you've progressed. The real secret is consistency. It's not about taking one massive leap and hoping it will carry you all the way to the finish line. Instead, it's about showing up every single day doing the work, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Think about it like a seed buried in the soil. For days, weeks, maybe even months, you won't see a single sprout. You water it, you care for it, but it seems like there's no growth. But below the surface, unseen to the naked eye, roots are reaching deep into the earth, preparing to support the burst of life that's about to come. That's what small steps are like. You don't always see the immediate results, but that doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Think about the stories of those you admire who have achieved great success. They didn't wake up one day and find themselves at the top. They didn't suddenly become the best in their field overnight. No, they took small, deliberate steps every day, often for years, before the major results, those visible, impressive outcomes came. And that's the tricky part. People only see the outcome. They see the recognition, the fame, the fortune. They don't see the endless hours of effort, the sacrifices, the setbacks, and the failures that paved the way for success. Those small, seemingly insignificant steps might not be glamorous. In fact, they often feel like a grind. It's not always fun to wake up early, stay late, and repeat the same actions day after day. But that's where the magic happens. The real progress is found in the grind, in the consistency. It's in the repetition that you build momentum. One step leads to another, and before you know it, you've created a habit, a rhythm. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, small at first, but as it moves, it gathers more snow, growing larger and more powerful until it's unstoppable. That's what happens when you commit to taking small steps. Too many people give up because they don't see instant results. They want the shortcut, the quick fix. But the truth is that anything worth achieving takes time. Real, lasting success is never built on shortcuts. It's built on persistence, resilience, and the willingness to continue moving forward, even when it feels like nothing is changing. Small steps lead to big results, but only if you keep taking them. The moment you stop, you lose momentum and you're back at square one. It's easy to get disheartened when progress feels slow. It's tempting to think, what's the point? But that's precisely the moment you need to dig deeper. That's the moment when you need to remind yourself why you started in the first place. You didn't embark on this journey because it was easy. You started because you had a vision, a goal for where you wanted to be. And that vision isn't realized by sitting back and waiting. It's realized through action, small, consistent action. You must embrace the process. Fall in love with the journey, not just the destination. Because it's the journey where you grow, where you're tested, and where you discover what you're truly capable of. Each small step is an opportunity to prove to yourself that you can do this, that you have what it takes. And when the big results come, and they will, you'll look back and realize that it wasn't one giant leap that got you there. It was the accumulation of all those small steps, each one building upon the last, creating a path that led you to your goal. Let me tell you something else. Those small steps build character. They teach you discipline. They teach you patience. They force you to develop a work ethic that will serve you for the rest of your life. Because if you can commit to the small steps, if you can show up every day and put in the effort, even when it feels insignificant, then there is nothing you cannot achieve. Success isn't about luck, it's about preparation meeting opportunity. And preparation happens in those small moments, in the daily grind, in those tiny steps that no one sees but you. So don't underestimate the power of those small steps. Don't get discouraged when it feels like progress is slow. Every step you take is bringing you closer to your goal. Every step is building momentum. Every step is laying the foundation for the big results that will eventually come. You may not see the finish line yet, but trust that it's out there. And the only way to reach it is one step at a time. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for the stars to align or for someone to give you permission to begin. Take that first step today, no matter how small it may seem. Then take another one tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. Keep moving forward. Keep building. Keep striving. Because one day you'll look back and realize that those small steps led to something far greater than you could have ever imagined. Big results don't come from big leaps. They come from steady, consistent effort. And if you commit to that, if you commit to taking those small steps every day, then success isn't just a possibility, it's inevitable. When you hit that wall, the one where your body aches, is your mind is exhausted and every fiber of your being is screaming at you to quit. What do? That wall isn't just physical fatigue or mental exhaustion. It's something much deeper. It's the manifestation of every doubt, every fear, and every excuse that has ever held you back. It whispers in your ear, you can't do this, you're not strong enough, it's too hard. That voice of resistance, that's what it is, resistance. And it's universal. Every person who has ever tried to achieve greatness has faced it. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not talent, not luck, but the ability to break through that wall when it appears. You can't avoid it. The wall will come. It might show up when you're chasing a dream that feels too big, when you're working on a project that seems overwhelming, or when life throws more challenges at you than you think you can handle. But if you truly want something, you have to dig deep and face that wall head on. And let me tell you, breaking through isn't about sheer strength. It's about resilience, grit, and the determination to keep going, even when everything inside you is begging you to stop. The wall is made of doubt. Every what if you've ever had stacks up like bricks in front of you. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if they were right about me not having what it takes? Doubts are powerful. They can paralyze you, make you turn around and walk away before you've even really tried. But here's the truth, those doubts are not real. They are illusions, shadows of your insecurities, reflections of your fear. And fear? Fear is temporary. It might sting for a moment, but it fades. The regret of never trying, though, that lingers. Let's talk about fear for a moment. It's one of the most insidious parts of that wall. It'll disguise itself as caution, as common sense, as logic. It will tell you that you shouldn't take that risk, that you're not ready, that there's too much at stake. Fear's only job is to keep you in your comfort zone. But here's the thing, growth, progress, success, none of these things come from comfort. They come when you step outside of it, when you face fear directly and say, not today. Then there are the excuses. Oh, the excuses. I'm too tired, I don't have time, I'll do it tomorrow. We've all made them. They're easy, convenient, and comfortable. They allow you to take a break to avoid doing the hard work. But excuses are just lies we tell ourselves to justify quitting. When you let excuses pile up, they become part of that wall. They make it taller, thicker, harder to break through. You might be thinking, okay, I understand. The wall is there, but how do I break through? The answer is simple, but not easy: consistency. Consistency is the hammer that breaks down the wall. Not one swing, not two, but day after day, hit after hit, showing up even when you don't want to, showing up when it's hard, when it's painful, when you're exhausted and would rather do anything else. That's how you break through. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not the highlight reel that people see. It's not the big moments of victory. It's the grind, the sweat, the perseverance when no one is watching. It's the alarm ringing at 5 a.m. and dragging yourself out of bed when all you want to do is hit snooze. It's staying late, putting in the extra hours when you'd rather relax. It's choosing to push a little harder, go a little further, and keep going even when there's no immediate reward. Let me tell you something else about consistency. It's not just about effort, it's also about belief. You have to believe that the wall can be broken. If you don't, then you've already lost. If you approach the wall thinking it's too big, too strong, too tough to break through, then it will be. Your mind is the most powerful tool you have. What you believe shapes your reality. If you believe you can break through, you will. If you don't, you'll turn around at the first sign of resistance. When that voice in your head starts telling you to quit, when it gets louder and louder, you have a choice to make. Are you going to listen to it, or are you going to fight back? Because that voice is just another part of the wall. It's your insecurities, your fears, your excuses, all trying to convince you to stop. But your commitment, your hunger, your desire for more, those need to be louder. You have to drown out that voice with your own determination. Each time you push through the pain, each time you exceed what you thought you could do, you chip away at that wall. And every time you do, you come out stronger on the other side. You begin to realize that the wall wasn't as solid as it seemed. It's not as unbreakable as you thought. Every challenge you face, every barrier you overcome, makes that wall weaker and makes you stronger. And one day you'll look back and realize that wall wasn't really there at all. It was just an illusion, a barrier you created in your own mind. You see, the wall is a test. It's there to measure how badly you really want it, to see if you're willing to go the distance, to endure the hardship, and to keep moving forward when everything inside of you is telling you to quit. Most people will stop when they reach the wall. They'll make excuses, let their fears take over, and walk away. But you're not like most people. If you were, you wouldn't be standing in front of that wall thinking about how to break through it. You'd already have turned around, but you haven't, and that is your first victory. So when you encounter that wall, and you will remember this, it's not there to stop you, it's there to challenge you. It's there to test how much you're willing to fight for your dreams, your goals, and your future. And if you want it badly enough, if you're willing to be consistent, to push past the pain, and to fight through the fear, then that wall will crumble. It has no choice but to fall when faced with unwavering commitment. The pain you feel, the struggle you endure, it's temporary. It's the price of progress, the cost of greatness. But the pride, the satisfaction, the fulfillment you'll feel when you break through that wall, when you see it shattered before you, that's what makes it all worthwhile. So don't stop. Don't turn around. Don't let that wall be the end of your journey. Break through it. Show the world, and more importantly, show yourself that you have what it takes to go the distance. Because on the other side of that wall is everything you've ever wanted. When we think about success, it's easy to get caught up in the final image, the big goal, the reward waiting at the end. We dream about what it will feel like to finally reach the pinnacle, to stand at the top, looking down at all the hard work we left behind. It's natural to envision success, the promotion, the recognition, the financial security, the sense of accomplishment. That outcome is what drives many of us to wake up every morning and put in the effort. It's the light at the end of the tunnel, the thing that keeps us going. But there's a fundamental truth that too many of us forget: the outcome isn't everything. In fact, it's just a small part of the story. What truly matters, what shapes you, what prepares you for the outcome, is the process. You see, we are conditioned from an early age to chase outcomes. We're taught to focus on the reward, getting an A on a test, winning a trophy, landing a good job, or reaching a particular milestone in life. But here's the thing: if you're only focused on the result, you're missing the point. You're ignoring the most crucial part of success, the journey. The journey is where the growth happens. It's where the lessons are learned, the character is built, and the real work takes place. It's easy to get impatient in today's world, where everything revolves around instant gratification. We want things now, we want shortcuts, hacks, and quick solutions to our problems, but the truth is, there are no shortcuts to real success. There is no fast track to greatness. The process cannot be bypassed. It's the grind, the daily effort, that consistency that builds the foundation for success. The outcome may seem glamorous, but it is the process that truly transforms you. Think about it this way: the outcome is a moment, a brief snapshot in time. It's the moment when you achieve what you set out to do. But that moment is fleeting, it passes quickly, and once it's gone, you're left with something far more lasting: the process. The process is the long stretch, the journey filled with ups and downs, failures and breakthroughs. It's the sweat, the struggle, the late nights and the early mornings. It's the sacrifices you make, the hard decisions and the challenges you overcome. And that process is where you find your true strength. That's where you develop the skills, the mindset, and the resilience to not only achieve success, but to sustain it. Success doesn't just come to those who want it. It comes to those who are willing to put in the work, day in and day out, even when the result seems far off, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. It's easy to stay motivated when the goal is within reach, but what about when the goal feels miles away? What about when you're not seeing the progress you expected? That's when the process becomes critical. That's when you have to dig deep and remind yourself that it's not just about the end result, it's about falling in love with the process, trusting that if you continue to show up, continue to put in the work, the outcome will eventually take care of itself. Too often, people get discouraged because they're not seeing immediate results. They work hard for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, but when the outcome doesn't appear right away, they give up. They think they've failed because the result isn't there yet. But success doesn't work on a timeline that you can predict. It requires patience. It requires faith in the process even when you can't see the finish line. And that's where consistency comes in. Consistency forces you to commit to the process, to show up every single day, regardless of whether or not the outcome is in sight. It's about putting one foot in front of the other, even when the road is long and the path is uncertain. It's about doing the right things over and over again, trusting that those small daily actions will eventually lead to the results you desire. Consistency isn't glamorous, it's not flashy, but it's the key to success. It's what separates those who dream from those who achieve. When you focus on the process, you allow yourself to grow in ways you never imagined. You become stronger, more disciplined, more resilient. You develop habits that will serve you for a lifetime. You learn to appreciate the small wins, the progress that comes from simply showing up and putting in the effort. You begin to understand that the outcome is just a byproduct of the process. It's the process that molds you, that shapes your character, that teaches you the lessons you need to succeed. The process is where the real work happens. It's where you discover what you're truly made of. It's where you find your grit, your determination, your drive. And when you commit to the process, you become unstoppable. Because once you've learned to love the journey, once you've embraced the daily grind, there's nothing that can stand in your way. The outcome is no longer your sole focus. It becomes secondary. What matters is that you're putting in the work, that you're staying consistent, that you're doing what needs to be done, regardless of whether or not anyone else sees it. And that's the beauty of the process. It's often invisible. People don't see the hours you put in behind the scenes. They don't see the sacrifices you make, the struggles you endure. They only see the outcome, the moment of success. But you know that it's the process that got you there. You know that without the countless hours of effort, without the setbacks and the failures, the outcome would never have been possible. And that knowledge gives you a sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment that goes far beyond the result. So the next time you find yourself getting caught up in the outcome, take a step back. Remind yourself that the process is where the magic happens. The process is where you become the person capable of achieving that outcome. The process is what prepares you for success, what equips you with the tools you need to not only reach your goal, but to thrive once you've achieved it. You can't control every outcome. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes things don't go the way we plan. But what you can control is your effort, your dedication, your consistency. You can control how you show up every day, how you approach the process. And when you focus on the process, when you fall in love with the journey, the results will come. They may not come when you expect them, and they may not look exactly how you envision, but they will come. And when they do, you'll be ready not just because you wanted the outcome, but because you embraced the process that got you there. So don't chase the result. Don't get so focused on the outcome that you lose sight of the journey. Chase the habit of being consistent. Chase the process, because it's the process that transforms you, that prepares you, that shapes you into the person you're meant to be. And when you fall in love with the process, when you commit to the journey, the outcome will take care of itself. Accountability is a word that cuts through the noise. It's not glamorous or exciting, but it's necessary. Without it, dreams remain just that, dreams. We all have moments where we set lofty goals and feel inspired to change our lives. We write them down, map out the plan, and make promises to ourselves. But then life gets in the way. Distractions, laziness, excuses, they all creep in. Before we know it, those goals we were once so passionate about seem distant, buried under a pile of tomorrows that never came. Why? Because when no one is watching, it's easy to let things slide. It's easy to convince yourself that skipping a day, missing a step, doesn't really matter. But here's the truth: it matters more than you can imagine. Each day, each moment is a building block. When you skip today, when you compromise just a little bit, it might feel like a minor misstep. But it's not. Today becomes tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes the next day. Before long, you've lost momentum. What started as a small slip has turned into a full-blown retreat from your goals. You've lost ground not because you couldn't achieve what you set out to do, but because you didn't hold yourself accountable. That's the weight of accountability. It's the invisible force that keeps you in line, that pushes you when no one else is around, and that ensures you're moving forward even when it's hard. It's easy to say you'll stay committed, but it's accountability that determines whether you'll actually do it. We've all been there, faced with the choice to push ourselves or take the easy way out. Maybe it's waking up at 5 a.m. for a workout. Maybe it's working late to finish that project or studying when you'd rather relax. In those moments, it's accountability that keeps you going. It's accountability that determines whether you'll stay on track or fall off course. Without it, there's nothing to hold you to your word. With it, you can achieve things you never thought possible. No one else will know if you choose to skip out or let things slide, but you will know. And that's where accountability begins within yourself. You have to hold yourself to the standards you've set. You have to decide that your goals and dreams are more valuable than the temporary comfort of giving up or making excuses. There's a reason why holding yourself accountable is difficult. It forces you to confront the truth. It makes you look in the mirror and face the person responsible for where you are in life, the person staring back at you. It's much easier to blame circumstances or point fingers at things beyond your control. But deep down, you know the truth, it's on you. You control your actions, your discipline, your effort. When you fall short, when you skip the work, that's on you. That level of honesty is tough, but it's essential if you want to be consistent, if you want to break through and achieve what you set out to do. To hold yourself accountable, you must set standards you refuse to compromise on. These standards aren't negotiable. They're the line you draw in the sand, the point you won't cross. Whether it's waking up at a certain time, completing a specific task daily, or hitting a target, you set the bar and refuse to let yourself fall below it. No excuses, no justifications. It doesn't matter how tired you are, how busy the day has been, or how difficult things become. Your standards are your guide, and you stick to them. Writing your goals down is one of the most powerful ways to hold yourself accountable. When you write something down, it becomes real. It's no longer just a thought in your mind, it becomes a concrete commitment you've made to yourself. Write them down, make them visible, and look at them every single day. Put them somewhere you can't ignore, on your mirror, on your desk, as your phone's background, whatever it takes to keep them in front of you. Remind yourself every day why you're doing what you're doing. Goals lose their power when you forget about them. They become just another item on a never-ending list of things you'll eventually get to. But when you see your goals daily, when you remind yourself of why you started, those goals regain their urgency. They stop being something you'll get to later and become something you're working on now, in the present. But accountability isn't just about writing things down. It's about action. It's about surrounding yourself with people who will push you to stay on track, people who won't let you off the hook when you fall short. These are the people who care about your success and will call you out when you're slipping. They are the ones who remind you of the standards you've set for yourself and will encourage you to rise to them even when you don't feel like it. We all need people like that in our lives. Let's face it, we won't always feel motivated. There will be days when you don't want to show up, when you'll be tempted to slack off. But having people in your corner who won't accept your excuses can make all the difference. The people you surround yourself with have a significant impact on your level of accountability. If you're surrounded by people who make excuses, who justify mediocrity, it becomes easier to do the same. But if you're around people who push themselves, who set high standards and stick to them, it raises your game. You want to be around people who inspire you to stay disciplined, who remind you of your potential, and who won't let you settle for anything less than what you're capable of. And here's the important thing, it's not just about them holding you accountable, it's about you being accountable to them as well. It's about mutual respect and shared commitment. When you know others are counting on you to show up, it adds another layer of responsibility, and that can be a powerful motivator. But the most important part of accountability is being honest with yourself. This is where it gets real. You have to look yourself in the mirror every day and ask the tough question, did I do everything I could today to stay consistent? Did I honor the commitments I made to myself? And you must answer honestly. If the answer is yes, great, keep going. But if the answer is no, don't make excuses. Don't rationalize or justify why you didn't. Own it. Take responsibility for falling short, and then make a plan to do better tomorrow. This level of honesty is rare, but it's what separates those who achieve their goals from those who don't. You can't lie to yourself and expect to succeed. You can't brush off your failures and expect to grow. When you hold yourself accountable, something powerful happens. You start to trust yourself more. You begin to believe in your ability to follow through, to keep your word, and that belief is crucial. It's what gives you the confidence to take on bigger challenges and set even higher goals, because you know you have the discipline to see them through. Accountability builds self-respect. It's a declaration that you value your word, that when you say you're going to do something, you mean it. That kind of integrity, that commitment to yourself, is what separates those who talk about their dreams from those who actually live them. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Accountability isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up day after day, doing the work, even when it's hard. It's about holding yourself to the standard you set, refusing to let yourself off the hook, and pushing through when no one else is watching. Because at the end of the day, the only person who can make your dreams a reality is you. And that starts with holding yourself accountable every single day. Failure is not the enemy. It's not some insurmountable obstacle placed in your path to stop you from achieving your dreams. Failure is part of the journey. It's an essential piece of the puzzle that leads you to where you want to be. But here's the thing, most of us are terrified of failure. We fear it because we've been taught to avoid it, to see it as a reflection of our inadequacies. And that's where so many go wrong. The truth is, failure is one of your greatest teachers, but it only works its magic if you have the courage, the resilience, and the consistency to keep going in spite of it. Think about that for a moment. If you quit when things get tough, if you let every setback convince you that you're not good enough, how will you ever move forward? How will you ever learn? Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the same process. Every successful person you know, every person who stands at the pinnacle of their craft has faced failure. They've stumbled, fallen, and questioned themselves. The difference is they didn't stay down. They didn't let failure define who they were or what they were capable of. They embraced it, learned from it, and kept moving forward. Now, I know what you're thinking, easier said than done. Failure hurts. It stings. It can shake you to your core and make you question everything. And that's real. That pain, that frustration, that doubt, it's all real. But so is your ability to push through it. So is your capacity to rise after you've fallen. What we often forget is that failure is not final unless we quit. It's just a lesson, a stepping stone on the path to success. You only fail permanently when you decide to stop trying. When you fail, and trust me, you have two choices. You can either let it consume you, let it convince you that you're not good enough, or you can use it. You can turn that failure into fuel, something that drives you to be better, stronger, more determined than ever. The question is not whether you will fail, but how you will respond when you do. Will you let failure stop you, or will you let it sharpen you? Will you allow it to push you to new heights? There's power in failure, but only if you can see it for what it is, a tool. Too often we get caught up in the fear of failure, in the anxiety of messing up, that we forget the opportunities that lie within those moments. Failure forces you to face your weaknesses. It shines a light on the areas where you need to grow. And if you can stand tall in the face of failure, if you can keep moving forward even when things don't go as planned, you will emerge stronger. Consistency in the face of failure, that's the key. It's easy to stay motivated when things are going well, but what about when they aren't? What about when they aren't? What about when you've given your all and still come up short? Those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments when your consistency will be tested the most, but those are also the moments when you have the most to gain. If you can push through that, if you can stay committed even when it feels like the world is against you, there's nothing you can't achieve. Failure is not a roadblock, it's a detour. And detours, while frustrating, often lead you to places you never imagined you'd go. Think about that. Think about the times in your life when something didn't work out the way you wanted, and now, looking back, you realize it was a blessing in disguise. Failure is like that. It's only in the moment that it feels overwhelming, but with time, with perspective, you'll see it was setting you up for something greater. The biggest mistake people make is letting failure define them. You are not your failures. You are not your mistakes. You are not the setbacks or the stumbles along the way. You are the person who gets back up, who keeps moving forward, who refuses to be defeated. That's who you are. And that's what success is about: persistence, resilience, consistency. Think about all the people you admire, the ones who've accomplished incredible things. Do you think they got there without failing? Absolutely not. They failed over and over again. They faced rejection, disappointment, and doubt. But what they didn't do was quit. They didn't allow failure to become the narrative of their lives. They rewrote that narrative every time they fell. They got back up, dusted themselves off, and kept going. That's the difference. The people who make it in life, the ones who achieve their dreams, are not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail but refuse to stay down. They're the ones who take failure, learn from it, and use it to come back stronger. Every failure is an opportunity to grow. It's a chance to learn something new, to adjust your approach, to become better than you were before. But you only get that opportunity if you stay in the game. If you give up at the first sign of trouble, you'll never know what you're capable of. Failure is only a temporary setback, not the end of the road. And if you can stay consistent, if you can keep pushing forward, you'll find that every setback is setting you up for a greater comeback. That's the power of failure. It doesn't have to be the end unless you make it the end. You have the ability to turn every failure into a stepping stone, every setback into a setup for something bigger, something better. So the next time you face failure, don't run from it. Don't let it discourage you or make you question your worth. Instead, embrace it, use it, let it fuel you. Learn from it, adjust, and keep moving forward. Because failure, when you look at it the right way, is not the enemy. It's an ally. It's part of the journey that leads you to success. Inconsistency in the face of failure is what separates those who succeed from those who don't. It's easy to keep going when everything is falling into place, but it takes real strength, real character to keep moving forward when things fall apart. That's where growth happens. That's where greatness is forged. And if you can stay the course, if you can be consistent, no matter how many times you fall, you'll look back one day and realize that failure wasn't something to be feared. It was something to be embraced. Because every failure brought you one step closer to where you were meant to be. Every failure was setting you up for something greater. Every failure was a part of your success story. Remember that the next time you stumble, don't let failure be the end of your story. Let it be the beginning of something extraordinary. Keep going, keep pushing, keep believing. And watch how failure turns into your greatest ally on the road to success. Consistency is the bridge between your dreams and reality. It's the key that unlocks the door to your potential. But it's not easy. It requires discipline, grit, and an unshakable belief that what you're working for is worth it. So from this day forward, make consistency your non-negotiable. Force yourself to show up. Force yourself to do the work, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable. Because in the end, the people who succeed aren't the ones who had the easiest path. They're the ones who refuse to quit. Stay consistent. Stay committed. Your breakthrough is coming.